Hey everybody, it's Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts. Thanks for listening to the Marching Roundtable podcast. I'm here with Dr. Mary White. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing so great, Tim. I'm so happy to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. We're recording this right at the beginning of January 2025, and the topic tonight is lessons that we learned over this past fall. Now, you and I, Mary, were doing less time out on the field, but I was still working with a lot of bands. But still, we had our life. We had a lot of things going on, and I have learned a lot of lessons over the last, say, 6 months that I think are going to serve me going into the future. So I asked you to jot down a couple of things that you've sort of learned about yourself or learned things that you've learned that you think will serve you better as you're moving forward.
Sure. And some of them when I'm thinking of things I didn't do that I want to do.
That's perfectly good too. Anything that you
Okay.
came away with, like a realization like, oh, this thing will make my life better. If I do this, or I don't
Right.
do this, or I change this, or I think or I did this thing and wow, this was really successful. I loved this. I'm going to do this again. Anything like that. So what's your first thing? I'd love to hear it.
Well, Tim, I had a really busy fall and it's not doing what you think it is. And that's what I missed. I
Ah,
really missed it a lot. So I last year or the year before, kind of right after I left my retirement at the school district, I got another job. Like I have a friend that owns a business and I have a great job and they're very good to me. And but I traveled a lot with them. I went to a conference that we had a big summit that I presented at. They had my brother had a 60th birthday party. And we had all these things. And then I was planning for a Europe trip. So all these weekends that I had, like during those things, I missed being out in the field. I missed judging,
yeah.
quite honestly. I miss judging. I miss being out on the field, working with the color guard, like getting the drop spins straight down, straight up, so quick and so good and so lovely. I missed it.
Yeah, because you're great at it. And it is something that brings us joy. And I think it's interesting. A lot of times you have to not do something to realize you miss it and it's important. I feel like that definitely hit a lot of people during the COVID shutdown, right? They were like, I'm really
Um,
missing this. And a lot of people didn't miss it the way they thought, or they missed a different part of it than they expected or something. But for you to have said, I went through this fall, I really didn't do much on site marching band stuff, and I want to fix that or do more of it. I think that's a great realization.
or at least judge a couple of contests or
Sure.
things like that in Florida or other places. I did miss that. I did get offers to judge, but I couldn't judge. Well, my surprise birthday party for my brother was, I was going to Dollywood with my work. I was going to Chicago with my work, all these things. So I think that I'll, not that I can prevent that from happening from work, but I'll try to um, maybe think about like including marching band in my fall. I'd love to.
I think it's a little bit, the way I hear it is sort of like reprioritizing a little bit. Like, you
Right.
know what? I want to make sure there's some time for this. And
Yes.
maybe I'll prioritize it over something else that could maybe I can reschedule or I can do something or somebody can step in for me, that kind of thing. But it's just a matter of giving it importance again.
Sure. Yeah. And that when you have a busy fall, I was shocked that I missed it so much because, I do consultation and I love going in. Tim, is one of my favorite things to do, actually.
Oh,
I
you're
miss
great at
our
it.
time together. We do,
Yeah.
like, I love that.
Yeah, you and I have such a good time when we do a weekend clinic with some band, and I'm hoping we get to do that again next fall. I missed doing that with you this year for sure. So my big takeaway from the fall was that I, for the first time, and I'm just not going to talk about this very much, but I do want to share it with everybody. I always have contracts for all the work I do. I get a contract if I'm writing a drill. I get a contract if I'm writing, arrangements. It says, here's how much you're going to pay me. Here's when you're going to pay me. But we set that all up. Here's what I'm going to do for you so that we're all in agreement. Well, I had someone contact me about doing just some design work and I never finished the contract process. For some reason, I was like, oh, this will be so easy. I'll just help this person out. I'll give them a bunch of ideas. Anyway, as it turned out, I was really shocked that this director did not pay me. And I was shocked. It's the first time I've ever had that happen in my entire career. So that was a lesson learned for me, that not to get into the ins and outs of why it happened or what they thought or any of that.
Sure.
But I just thought, oh, wow, I didn't take care of myself. I need to make sure that I'm giving myself protecting myself by making those contracts and making sure it's really clear up front to everybody exactly what's expected. So that's my takeaway for anybody that's doing design work or anytime you're contracting for work. Is just draw up a simple contract, get everybody to sign it, make sure the expectations are clear, protect yourself in that way.
I always use the contract you've given me, and it has served me well.
Yeah,
And I
I've
mean,
had
and
one
you
all
have,
these years.
yeah, I know, and you have been the one to tell me you need to get a contract signed. You've been
Yeah.
that one, and this makes me sad for a couple of reasons, Tim. Number one, it makes me sad because why would somebody be that way? I mean, you do good work.
Well, part of it, that was part of what was so hard about it was just sort of the disappointment that someone would actually treat me so badly. And so that was the shocking part. That was the part that really
Right.
hurt me was my sense of my better fellow man, was disappointing me. That was part of the big hit. But anyway, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I just want to put that out there. Everybody, make sure you protect yourself by getting things. Make
Nice.
sure you know
Yeah.
exactly. And if you're being hired by some band, just make sure it's really clear. When am I going to be paid? How much? What's going to just get it very clearly laid out and in writing, and then that's just everybody feels better.
Tim, for many times I've worked with bands in the summer, and I did do someone this summer, by the way. Um, I was comfortable getting paid after July 1st, which people really appreciated. And I've always put that in the contract. When a new fiscal year starts for a school district, so they probably have more money at hand and more flexible money. So I've always been very flexible, but it's always been in the contract.
Sure, and it's just really like, the part of the conversation is always, well, what works for your program? When can you pay me? When can you pay me a
Yeah.
deposit, or can you, et cetera, et cetera? You just figure it out. What works for you, then what works for me. Okay, so do you have something else that you came away from the fall with?
Um, well, Tim, I felt like I had so much going on that I was almost rushing into the fall, into the winter. Like, how can I explain this the right way? Like, I had so much going on, and I had family visiting, and things were going on that I feel like I didn't slow down enough. Also,
I like that.
and to really slow down and appreciate it. Like, I felt I was constantly like in preparation mode for the next event rather than really just stopping to enjoy the moment that my family is staying here for my brother's 60th surprise birthday party. It was incredible. It was beautiful when he came in to see and he saw all my nieces and nephews. It was like, and that moment I could slow down, but preparing for it and getting things ready and doing all the other stuff, it was crazy. And then presenting at a couple of conferences, it was like, it was just go, 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 and step it back, you know?
Yeah, right. So put some space in your calendar in your own personal schedule. That's something I've definitely learned to do is plan into my day, into my week, time for me, time to stop, time to slow down. And sometimes it can be okay, well, that's going to be my personal time when I go to the gym. Well, yeah, but that's actually another task, even though I really enjoy it. So I really
Right.
do make sure I have some time for me. In fact, another way to look at that is just make sure you schedule time in your every single day, something for you, just that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And this year, Tim, I want to read more because I love reading. I love reading. We talk about books all the time. We
We do.
we read books consistently and constantly. And I just felt like I dropped that ball too because I was so like absorbed in these projects and missions to get done.
Yeah, but that's another good example of realizing that you missed something that was actually important to you, and now I'm going to stop and adjust. And I think that's just how life is. Like we don't always
Right.
get it right. It's very easy to get wound up in how busy we can be. And I feel like, people in the marching arts and band directors and all, there are always so much demand on their time. You're spinning so many plates all the time. But even in the middle of spinning all those plates, you can schedule time for you. And I know that's hard if you have kids at home and the whole thing, but even then, I encourage you find some way that you can stop and do something for you. You can
Calgon,
schedule
take me
that.
away.
Yeah, I know. You know me, I'm a big fan of the bath, of
Tim
lounging in the
loves a bath.
bathtub. I am a big fan. So all right, well, I have a takeaway. In case people don't know, my husband and I have a bed and breakfast, and we've been doing this for the last 2 years, and it's been very interesting. I've become more and more aware of certain things as we host people in our home. And of course, what they do, everybody, is they show up here. We have no idea who they're going to be most of the time. They show up, we get to know them, and then we figure out, okay, what do they want? Like some people just want to be left alone. Some people really want to have nice conversations. Some people come to our sort of paranormally themed bed and breakfast because they want to talk about ghosts and ghost stories and things with my husband. Or they just, want a weekend away or a night away or something. But my takeaway, and this is what I wanted to share here, is lessons I've learned from that is I've come to realize that people struggle a lot and people are lonely and people have hard lives. And once they get to know
Everybody.
us and they realize that we're nice, friendly, safe people, sometimes we start to hear they'll share how much they're actually struggling and how if they're lonely or things aren't going well. And my point here is we try to give them a lot of attention if they want to talk and
Right.
interact with us. And just Mary, just being kind and empathetic and listening to someone is a real gift. And it's been shocking to me how shocked people are when you give them your full attention and kindness and
Wow,
really
Tim.
listen. Like Mary, it's really baffling to me. People are literally taken aback
Hmm.
that because I think in our day-to-day interactions with people and stuff, we just don't really pay much attention to people. And so I've really started paying attention to this. But if we have someone come here, and I will say, especially women of a certain age, I think our culture tends to make them invisible and we don't pay much attention to them. And I can just
Right.
sitting with someone and listening to their story and go and they know you're listening and you have their full attention. They have your full attention. Um, People are shocked by it and usually really moved by it. Like I feel like we are really giving them a real gift when we do that.
A
And it makes
comfortable
me feel
space.
great. A what?
That's really nice. A very comfortable space. That's really great, Tim, because I think people want that kind of experience. They crave it, but
Yeah.
now you're offering an outlet. And in addition to a really cool place, by the way,
Thank
I've
you.
been there, stayed there. It's creepy but comfortable. Um,
That is our tagline. And the thing is, I'm not talking about sitting down and listening to someone for hours and hours on end, but even
no.
even like I will take someone on a tour of the house and we'll show them and I will just pay a lot of attention to them and they'll notice certain details and oh, I'm so glad you noticed that. Most people don't even see that little detail in this room. And they're shocked that I'm really paying attention and giving them
Hmm.
that most basic of experience. And so I just want to remind everybody to take time to do that when you can. I know that educators out there in the schools, we do this for our students in a big way. We probably don't even think about it. But
Yeah,
I
Tim.
remember being that little kid and my band director like gave me his full attention and thought I was pretty cool and supported me and encouraged me. And I was like, I don't know if anybody had ever quite done that in the same way. It meant the world to me, and I still remember it.
That's wonderful, Tim. Remember, I was a school principal, and that always on the end of year survey where they used to rate the principals or the teachers would anonymously send a survey to the school district or wherever about your principal, and I was always proud that people said I was a good listener.
Yeah, it really matters. I
It
had a phenomenal principal when I was teaching a long time ago, everybody. I was
Oh
a band
yeah,
director
you
for 10 years, and Dr. Jenny Springer, it's the most wonderful principal I've ever known, and she was just brilliant. But I remember her telling me very clearly one time that she often had to deal with very angry, upset parents. And they
all the
would come
time.
in, and you know about this, but they would come in and sit down in her office and then just sort of rant and get it all out. And she told me very clearly one day, she said, Tim, they really just want to be listened to and they want to be able to say what they want to say. That, it
Mhm.
turned out, I believe, if I understood her, was the most important part. Not that she didn't then take some action to try to help and resolve it or whatever, but she
If it
said,
needed to be.
my job is just to sit and let them have their say.
I love it. Tim, I just want to go back to your women of a certain age comment, if you don't
Sure,
mind,
sure.
because I think I might be a woman of a certain age.
Well, you might be.
But so
Do
I
you
didn't
ever
watch
feel
the,
invisible out there in the world, Mary?
um, no, I
Good.
mean, I,
Maybe you're not of an age, of a certain age
Maybe I'm not of that age. I think, Tim, like we marched in drum corps, we have teaching experiences, we have these things that make you, I don't know, more confident. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad that you don't feel that way. But like if you ever watched Jackie and is it Johnny and Frankie? Jackie and what
Oh,
was Frank?
Frankie and Grace. Where Frank? What's it?
Frankie Grace. That
Jimmy
whole
and
premise
Johnny.
of that show, yeah, Frankie Grace. I love that. The
Yeah.
whole premise of that was basically that they felt invisible in the world, and I loved how they played on that.
I'm not saying I didn't feel uncomfortable in the world or something like that, but so I didn't watch the Golden Globes the other night. We frequently talk about award shows, but in Demi Moore's speech, she said, just know you will never be enough, but you can know the value of your worth if you would just put down the measuring stick. I loved it. I had to snap it.
That's wonderful.
I just love it. And I think that's what women of a certain age face is a very inconsistent and sometimes terrible measuring stick.
Oh gosh, of course, and I think that. But I guess my point was just that I felt like the interactions I've had where people seemed to react the most to me giving them just a kindness and attention were
Mm-hmm.
often older women like that who I don't know. I don't think I was treating them any certain way, but I enjoyed making them feel good about themselves and about our interaction and I don't know. That was just one of my takeaways. I just want to remind everybody to be mindful when you're interacting with people, to stop, and especially in the comment we've already said about how busy we can be. If you can
Yes.
stop, someone comes in, if you can stop and really give them your full attention for a moment, even if you have to say to them, I only have 4 minutes, but what can I do for you? And then really give them your attention. It's so easy to be distracted. I feel like I've gotten good because of this bed and breakfast. I've gotten even better at stopping and really giving someone my attention, at least for that amount of that little moment.
That's a really I'm going to say thoughtful thought, but that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. But I
Yeah.
really tried this holiday season and going into the winter and the Christmas and all the holidays to really think about all the people working in the stores that people are cranky. And I said, no, I'm going to be kind to every single one of them, regardless of what happens. I'm just going to look them in the eye and say, thank you very much, or thank you for your time, or something that would, be part of the civility of who we are.
Yeah, I've become really aware of this in the grocery store.
Yes.
Is I'm standing in line and I will make a real effort to look the cashier and the bag person in the eye and say, I hope you're having a good day and thank you, you're really speedy, or some sort of comment,
Yeah.
and actually see them because we've all stood in those kinds of lines before, and you see how they're treated, and people are on their phone and they're just not treated like a person. And that's just one little example, but I feel like that those examples are
Yeah.
all around us.
And I feel like it's a small thing we can do, like, taking your cart back or something crazy like that. I mean, I do take my cart back, but I think a very small thing we can do to encourage and hopefully spread kindness.
Yeah, because that little bit of interaction, it can
I
sound
love it.
really cliched, but I do think it really matters. You don't know what you could do for someone's day, holding that door, giving them a smile, hey, have a nice day. I think it really does matter. And we're in a time when we're sort of all divided up and, being pitted against each other. And this is one way that we can all counter that one person at the time is be a kind person out in the world to the people that we interact with. So anyway, I've learned that a lot from the bed and breakfast experience. And it
That's
reminds
such
me,
a
I see it
tremendous
all the time.
lesson.
The other big thing also from our bed and breakfast is that we try to make sure we create a safe space for people to really be themselves and to be able to relax and be comfortable.
Hmm.
That's something I also think that people are missing out in the world is they're on guard because people are judgy and might hurt them or make them feel
Everybody's got
bad.
a measuring stick, Tim,
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good.
for everything.
I have one more thing I wrote down. Do you have anything else that you came in with?
I don't, Tim. Boy,
Okay.
this was a lot. This was really diving into like
I like it. I
a
like it.
small
Well,
therapy session.
and this is going to be a stupid one to end on, but one of the things I've realized over the last few years as I've continued to be a show designer. Listen, everybody, I've been a show designer. I started full time in 1993, so I've been doing this a really long time. I'm trying to do the math too much, but even a couple years ago, I made this mistake. And so I'm just going to tell everybody, okay, if you'd like a little bit of advice from someone who's been there and made all the mistakes, Mary, all the great designers I ever get to interview, and I'm so lucky when I get to, they always say, like even Scott Chandler said to me, I don't want everybody to make all those mistakes I made. If I can say anything that will help somebody not do some of the things I did. So we've all been there. Okay, so here's my little nugget that I guess I'll end this conversation with. And here it is. If you're thinking of doing a piece of music or some certain source of music or some certain concept, and you saw a top DCI group do it and it didn't work, it's not going to work for you either.
And guess what? It's not going to work again.
And I mean, I got to tell you, I had this idea a couple years ago, and I was like, I have a way of doing this, and I think even though I saw this didn't work for one of the top drum corps in the whole universe, I think I've got a way. Okay, so fast forward later, and it didn't go
This
great. I
is
mean,
a great
it
one
went
to end on.
fine, but I didn't make it work any better than so if there's something that you've seen people try to do and it just didn't work for them, remember that these are the best, smartest, most experienced, most talented people in the whole world. And if they couldn't do it, now that doesn't mean, Mary, that if I have I'm talking about really super competitive groups. Like if I have my band and it doesn't really, it's the measuring stick is not so high, shall we say, and I just
Yeah.
still want to do it, then do it. I'm not telling you not to, but if you're thinking I'm going to the national competition level and I'm going to I have to make a show that's going to be successful, don't pick that thing that didn't work for the Blue Devils or the Cavaliers or the Phantom Regiment or the Cadets or something.
Right. And not that it couldn't work, but people will maybe remember that it didn't work, and then
Well,
there's
but my
lots of
point is,
things in there,
if those
Tim.
really, really smart people couldn't figure out how to make it work, I'm probably not going to be the one to actually finally figure it out. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's just a word of caution. Listen, go for it, everybody. Try it if you want to. But this was something I sort of hard lesson I was reminded of again a couple years ago.
I I think it's such a great lesson to learn on, Tim, because I think um, knowing what you have in front of you is like one of the most important things,
Of course.
as you're approaching the fall. What's
Sure.
in front of you.
Well, and the other takeaway from this is have somebody really smart with some experience that you bounce things off of, right? And
Yeah, I
I've
love
offered
that.
to do this many times, Mary. You've done it many times. And a lot of times I work with programs where, we can go to somebody and say, well, here's our idea. And they will be brave enough and kind enough to say, that's not a good idea. Right. And
Yeah.
that's really hard to do, especially when somebody comes in and they're like, I've been working on this for months and months and I love this. And here it is. It's really hard to tell them why. But I feel like, Mary, I'm at the point where if somebody calls me up and I have a conversation with them, I can say, I tried that back in 1990, whatever, and I can tell you why that didn't work. Or I might be able to say to them, don't do it that way. Think of it this way. But like there are things that people get in their head. Like, for example, using a character. Don't ever do that, anybody. Don't put a main character on the field to build a show around him. That is a nightmare. So there's tons there, but there's a way to tell the story without that one character.
Well,
Figure that
and that
out.
character is always going to get wrapped and tied up in a knot that you can't get out of.
No, it's just, I'll never
Yeah.
forget seeing a show where they were doing a chase scene. They were telling some stories, a chase scene, and they ran around and they ran around, and eventually they just ran out of places to go, and they stood in place jogging. And I was like, oh my God, these poor kids, like anyway.
They must have been exhausted from that.
Well, I was, and I'm sure they, but anyway, my point is make sure you have somebody that will give you the honest truth and tell you what, maybe your baby's not so pretty, or maybe try it a little different, or maybe veer a little bit to the left.
Tim, we've had podcasts where we've done that same thing where band directors come on mid-season. When did we do that? Late
Sure.
September this
Yeah, we
year,
did.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. And people, I thought, got some really good things, especially transitionally. I think
Yeah.
people struggle with sometimes those difficult transitions to get from here to there or there to here. We had fun with that.
Yeah, the premise of that was like help people fix shows and make shows better in the middle of the season, which I think is also a valuable thing everybody should do. Have somebody you can do that
Yeah.
too. But my point is, if you're starting now to think about next fall's show and you start to really get in the thick of it and into the weeds of it, have somebody that you can call up. call me and Mary if you can't find anybody else, but call somebody up and say, let me lay this out for you and tell me what are the pitfalls? What am I missing? What am I not seeing?
Hmm.
What might be a problem? Um, Even just a couple of years ago, I was working with a band and Michael Cesario, of course, who I know very well now and who is very brutally
I need
honest
to
with me at
text
this
him.
point. I know I do too. I wonder how Michael's doing. But anyway, we went to him with this show idea and he just tore it to shreds in a nice way, in a Michael way. But like it was, and clearly after I got off the call, I was like, oh my God, that was the worst show idea. Like, why
Yeah,
were we so entranced with this? But Michael was kind enough to say, judges won't like it because of this. It has a problem because you won't be able to do it. And he explained to us because he has so much show knowledge and experience.
right.
He didn't just say, you're stupid, that's bad. He said, here's a reason it's bad, and here's another reason it's not going to work, and here's a third reason that you're going to have a problem with that. And by the end of the call, our egos were a little bruised, but I was like, oh, wow, I needed to hear that. And he, and of course, Michael can be a little extra blunt with me, I think, because,
He's a
we're
riot.
friends. Yeah.
He's a riot. Every time we have him on a podcast, I mean, I
Oh, he is
just
the best.
crack up
Yeah, if you're
because
listening
he's
to this,
just,
anybody, and you want to get a laugh, is pull up one of our old podcasts with Michael Cesario, put his name into the website and search and just listen because he's a scream.
he is so funny. And he lives in my hometown. I think you know that. Like he
Yeah.
lives like 10 minutes away from me. And we have gone out to dinner and I need to see how he's doing because I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah,
And
I know. I was thinking about him this week too. So, Michael, you're on our brains, obviously. We're going to check in with you. But anyway, that my point, everybody, is have somebody check your idea, throw it by somebody. I think that's always a good idea. I've been guilty of getting all excited about something and not really doing my research and checking in enough with people about it. And certainly that's true when you have a show idea. And back to the beginning of my premise is if you saw a top drum corps do it and you didn't think went very well, then it's probably, do something
yeah,
else.
there's a reason. Yeah, love
As
it.
much as you love it and as much as you think it's a great idea. And, anyway, that was a hard lesson for me. Mary, this has been fun.
This is so fun and
Any
somewhat therapeutic, Tim.
what's your takeaway from this conversation?
The takeaway for me is continue to think about slowing down and appreciating and listening and still being good to people.
Yeah, I think
It's
that we
something that
sort of,
I felt like I was good at, you know, but well, it's not,
you are.
I know, but I feel like, again, like my lesson from the fall is like I skipped some of it, you
But
know.
that's okay. That's how life works. You learn lessons and then you sort of forget them. And then life reminds you, oh, wait a minute. Remember this thing that you decided was important. And I think that's true not only for our own lives, as we've been discussing, but as I said, also how we're interacting with others. Just slow down a little bit and give them that kindness of your attention,
Sure.
um, even with some limitations on how much time you have or what you can do. Mary, it's always fun to talk to you. Thanks for having
It's
this
always fun to
conversation.
talk to you.
Thanks. Well, that was fun.
It was fun, Tim. We got something. I don't know if anyone will ever listen to it, but
Well, I thought it was good. I'll put it out. There's a podcast at some point. We'll see. We'll see if anybody finds it helpful. I thought it was helpful.
yeah, put it out when you like want to take a week off. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, what I did is I have the next 11 already. The next,
loved it.
I know I've got
What a
them all
smart
done.
idea.
That was so much work back in the fall, but
I
they're
know,
all
but I was
done.
thinking that was brilliant, Tim.
Yeah. I needed a break. So I was like, okay, for the next 11 weeks, I do not have to. But see, now I got one in the books that I wasn't even planning on. But for the next 11 weeks, they're all done. Yeah. So
Yeah, so give yourself a little pass there.
yeah, that was a
That
lot
you're
of work.
talking about this, like here's the flute, here, everything
Yeah.
you need
There's
to.
one for
Yes,
each
that's
instrument. Yeah. There's
yeah.
flute,
This
oboe,
is so
bassoon, clarinet,
great.
trumpet. Yeah, they were good too. People are wonderful. I loved meeting those private lesson teachers.
Oh,
They're
I'm sure they're
wonderful.
great.
Yeah, they were wonderful. The flute girl was my favorite. So I was so excited that she went
I saw it
first.
was released today, but I didn't listen to it because I
Yeah,
really don't know how to play the flute.
I know. But I mean, like, just watch like the first 5 minutes and just see how wonderful
Okay.
she is. She is just the most bubbly, wonderful thing.
Okay. I
Um,
saw her picture today,
yeah,
but
she's
I didn't.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really happy because I was planning to go in score order and flutes always first, and I was so excited when she was so great. I was like, oh well, this is because they're not all unbelievably amazing, but they're all good. They're all good.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the flute lady, but I will. even just for a few minutes.
Yeah, just turn it on and see how cute she is. She's just
Yeah, you know
adorable. I mean,
what? I
she's, in her 20s and just
just
teaching flute in Texas and just loving
yeah,
life. And she was just lovely. I loved her.
she probably has a lot of business in Texas.
Oh, she's really busy. Oh, sure. Because,
Well, I bet
they
any
get
private instructor in Texas is busy. How did you get all their names?
most of them. I just said, I'm looking for a flute private lesson teacher. I put that on Facebook and people started tagging everybody. It got a huge response.
And how did you pick one?
That was interesting. I luck. I just usually chose somebody, or it was the
Okay.
first person that called in. That contacted me. I mean, I did a little bit of research, to
Yeah,
see who
you
they
looked them
were.
up. Yeah.
But so that was the dangerous thing was I was sort of asking people to do this, and I didn't. We're like off the record now, right? But I did not know who they were very much, and some of them weren't as quite as spectacular as others, but they were all good.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm sure they're just filled with a wealth of knowledge about,
oh yeah, they were
you know,
great. And like
their
the bassoon person was a they them pronoun person,
wow.
which I thought was kind of cool. So that's out there, and you know, so
Oh, I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, it's great.
yeah. So that I mean, I enjoyed doing it. The editing and preparing of them was a bear, but I was determined not to have to be stressed about podcasts over the first 2 or 3 months of the year. So I've got that done. So
You edited them? Edited
well,
them?
I
I
mean,
can't say that word.
my editor does the podcast editing, but I have to plan them and then I edit the
You have to
videos.
say, yeah,
And
yeah,
so the video part is what takes so long.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, they
but
were all on video. That's right.
yeah,
Wow.
everything's on video now. So that's like double the work than it used to be.
Double the work.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
The flute
You
one's
should
doing
put,
pretty
are
good.
there any blooper shows? You should put together a blooper show.
I've thought about that so many times, but it would be so much work to go through and
So much
find.
work to remember which one was which.
Yeah,
It,
if I had been smart enough to go through and like pull out those moments as I was going, um, but
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I listen to, yeah, I do like podcasts, Tim, and I listen to a podcast from Julia Louis Dreyfus,
Really?
and it's called Wiser Than Me. And she's so freaking smart, Tim. So what she does is interview women who are older and wiser than her.
Wow.
And the first question she asks, can I ask how old you are? And then the second question is, how old do you feel?
Wow.
She, yeah, she does a great one with Ina Garten, who I just love, and Nancy Pelosi, and who's in Schitt's Creek, the mother. What's her name?
Yeah, she's
I,
brilliant.
brilliant. And oh my gosh, what's her name, Tim? Kathy? No,
Not more.
Mara. I know, but what's
That's her
the
name on the show. I can't
um?
think of it, but she's brilliant.
She's so good,
Well, I
but
love Julia Louis Dree,
and she's so funny, and she's smart.
of
She's
course.
just flat out smart. And it's going to drive me crazy. She did Bonnie Raitt, Nancy Pelosi, two Nancy Pelosi's, three actually, Rena Moreno, Patti LaBelle. She has all these really, just great people. And yeah, I'm trying to think of her name. Ina Garten, she did. That was Isabel Rossellini. Um, I don't, Dolores Huerta. What, Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah,
That's it. And she
that's
was,
cool. I would
and
like
she
that.
did Nina Totenberg. And how do I love Nina Totenberg? I love her so much.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love her. And there's
She
pretty
talked to
sure,
Terry Gross.
I don't know if she has. I don't think
I'd love to
so.
hear that.
Terry Gross has someone kind of like taken, you can tell she's taken over for her. Yeah.
I expected that. I saw that coming. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
she's been doing
she's
it
great.
forever.
I didn't like
Oh,
her at first because,
she's
I like to hear that Terry Gross voice, but she's great.
no, she's
The new
brilliant.
one.
I think she's the best interviewer of all time, and I try to like model as much as I can on how she listens to people and responds.
No, no,
All
no. I
right,
think she's great. Wait,
I don't
I'm
want to
trying
take
to
any
think.
more of your time.
Can I just find out this person's name right here?
Of course.
What is it? Tanya Mosley is the one who's taken over for her. Like
Oh,
kind of.
really?
Yeah, she's excellent.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. All right, Tim. Good to see you. We hope I
Well,
sleep tonight.
I think you are going to sleep tonight because you already proven that you will because you got that nap earlier that showed that you're ready to rest.
Okay, hopefully.
I
All
have
right.
faith that you will rest very well tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't
Thanks
have a
for
book
giving me
to
your
read.
time tonight. I'm sorry we didn't have anybody sign on, but hopefully next week for the midlife thing.
It was fun. All right,
I
bye.
enjoyed it too. All right, see ya.